take a picture of me and her.
One of my favorite places to go when I was little was the library. And you don't have to tell me, I am a proud nerd. One of my favorite things about the library was that I got to choose a new and exciting book. I took pride in looking at each and every one of the covers and determining which ones I thought looked the most interesting. Needless to say, I soon learned why the saying, "Don't judge a book by its cover," is so important. I firmly believe that sometimes the most important things can be concealed within the simplest of covers. Take this book, for example. Despite its less than average cover, it's one of my most valued possessions. And no, this book does not contain any artfully crafted paragraphs, no mystery, action, or romance. It's a simple book of names. And you might be familiar with these books because these aren't just random names. These are the names of the people that I've met throughout this year. These are names like Dina from Natchitoches Central, Michael from Crowley, and Tony from Lockport Middle. But why do I keep this seemingly random book of names? And no, it's not in case any of you become famous one day. I keep it to remind me of the people I meet. I keep it to remind me of who I want to be. Now, if you know anything about me, you might know that I am horrible at remembering names. Literally atrocious. A fact that I have been reminded of many times throughout this year. Here's how conversations usually go. Hi, my name is Lauren. Nice to meet you. Oh, I'm Allison. Nice to meet you. So, what are you doing at State Convention? Wait, what was her name again? There are many times, not 5 seconds after being introduced to someone, that I cannot remember this valuable piece of information. It's as if it's stored in the very back of my mind where I cannot access it no matter how hard I try. But usually, I play it off. I sneakily look at a name tag or carefully listen in on a conversation, hoping that their name comes up. And if all else fails, there is my tried and true method of calling them bestie, bro, or my girl. Yeah, that one has backfired on me a few times. Once was during the very beginning of my journey this year. At leadership camp, I met someone named Jordan. And as you might expect, I remembered her name. No, I promptly forgot it. Not my brightest moment. But the thing about Jordan is that she wouldn't let me forget her name. In fact, the one and only time that I tried to call her bestie, she loudly announced to the entire room, "Lauren, that is not my name." You see, Jordan was holding me to a standard, and let's be honest, that standard was not that high. A name is usually the first piece of information that we learn about someone, and the simplest to remember. Names are important, but what's more important is valuing the people around us enough to remember them. So, how do we value the people around us? Well, first, it starts with noticing them. When I first walked into this unassuming Chick-fil-A, there was one thing and one thing only on my mind: the delicious chicken sandwich, which I was about to consume. As I made my way through the line and towards the back of the restaurant where my friends had already claimed a booth, I realized that one friend was not following. Instead, she was making her way to the opposite side of the restaurant, towards a table with a sole occupant. I looked the man sitting there up and down and decided that I was not going to let my friend sit fast food restaurants. The conversation that happened over the next 10 minutes changed my perspective. Here is what I could not see about the man. He was a war veteran. He was struggling to get by, but he was working on an autobiography. He was nice and so much more. You see, when I first looked at the man, I wasn't truly seeing him at all. And when I walked away from that valuable conversation, I realized that I didn't even know his name. This man made such an impact on me that I still remember our conversation clearly almost a year later. But in the first few moments of that interaction, I didn't value him enough to even listen. But this is not uncommon. There are so many people that we do not notice and that we do not value. But it's important to see them. It's important to remember their names. Let's fast forward to July of 2022, just a few months later. It was a wonderful day to be a state officer. It was hot. We were wearing official dress, and I think we all know how that pairs well with the heat. And we were bordering on running late for a meeting with one of our representatives in Washington, D.C. The last thing on my mind was the man driving the Uber getting us to said meeting. Well, that was my first mistake. Our Uber driver was an immigrant from Africa who came to America to escape gang violence. There was one thing that he just kept repeating throughout our entire car ride. I mean, he said it no less than 5 times in as many minutes. America is great. You have so many freedoms. America is great. You do not have to go what I went through. America is great. You get to be a part of this organization and fight for what you believe in. America is great. The one thing that I got from this conversation was his passion. This man was willing to share his passion and his story with people that he had just met a few moments ago. One of the things that I did not take away from this conversation, however, was his name. Now, you might be able to see a similar theme within these two stories, and while it's too late for me to go back and learn the names of these two amazing individuals, I can go into every new conversation with a different outlook. But let's focus in on names for a second, specifically my name. Lauren is the 346th most common name in the United States, with a whopping 452,050 people sharing this name with me. Despite how common it is, I believe that my name has power. Lauren, my first name, comes from my parents. My mom, who loves Little House on the Prairie a bit too much, but agreed with my dad that Laura was too old school. My middle name comes from both of my grandmothers, and my last name puts me into one of the most caring, kind, and generous families around. My name means different things to different people. To some, I'm a leader, to some a friend, and to some a complete stranger. There's so much that we can learn from a name. We can gain so much more from striving to learn about the people to whom that name belongs. Now, let's be honest for a second. Who here has ever walked into a room and decided that they were going to talk to the people who they thought were important? Yeah, I used to do that too. I went into every interaction thinking about if the person that I was talking to was in a position of power or could give me something. What I've realized, though, is that everyone can teach you something new. And everyone has value not because they can give you something, but simply because they are people. And let's be honest for a second. If we don't care enough about someone to remember their names, do we truly care about them at all? One of my greatest weaknesses is remembering names, but one of my greatest strengths is realizing the importance of trying. I challenge you to be someone who sees people's value. I challenge you to remember names. From Jordan, I learned that we should all fight to be treated the way that we deserve. From Michael, I learned that sometimes it is hard to get out of our comfort zone. From JJ, I learned how to put my all into reaching a goal. From Bree, I learned that we can get through hard situations. From Annie, I learned how to be a light. From Peyton, I learned that hard situations do not define us. From Dina, I learned that all that we have to do to stand out of a crowd is be ourselves. From Blakely, I learned how to make everyone feel welcomed. And from Madison, I learned that sometimes we can affect the people that we don't expect. Everyone has a name. Everyone deserves to be valued. And I hope you'll remember my name, because I will remember yours. Louisiana FFA, you are valued.